Hello, everybody. My name is Spencer. I'm the marketing manager for GameNerds.com, and I have the privilege of chatting with Jackie Fox, bassist for 70s rock band The Runaways, and now a published board game designer. Jackie, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here, Spencer. Thank you for your time and the questions.
Well, so I gave you a little bit of an intro, but how about if you could just, in your words, briefly tell us about yourself and your career?
I am Jackie Fox. I am a board game designer from Los Angeles, California. My first published board game is Rock Hard 1977, which will be released August 1st by Devir Games, the company that also brought you The White Castle, Three Rings Circus, Bitoku, and a bunch of other great games. I was the bass player for the 1970s all-female rock band The Runaways with Joan Jett and Lita Ford. You may have heard our hit song Cherry Bomb in television and movies. It's been used an awful lot. Anytime there are teens doing something bad or kicking ass, it's like haul out the Runaways because that's what we represent. And I'm just excited to be in this world now because I was an entertainment attorney for about 20 years. And as we know, the movie business is full of a lot of very not nice people. And the board game business is just, it's such like a small little business. And everybody got together and said, we're going to make this a really welcoming space. And we're going to try to not do business with the people that aren't nice and aren't welcoming. And it's like, oh my God, I have these things I never had in, boy, I don't even really want to say how many years, almost 50 years in the entertainment industry.
Wow. You're here to talk about Rock Hard 1977. So just for anybody that isn't aware of the game, can you give us just a pretty basic like elevator pitch about what's the game, what's the goal, what kinds of things are you trying to do in the game? That kind of thing.
You're an up-and-coming musician in 1977 trying to hit it big with your band. So yeah, during the day, you're going to do your business. You're going to promote your band. You're going to rehearse to improve your chops, get a better reputation, write some original songs, hire some crew. At night, you're going to mostly play gigs. And then after hours, you are going to hang out and try to meet people who can help your career. And you are playing against other people. You're going to be a musician with your own unique ability as well as your own instrument and gender, which might affect some things during the game. And you will have a manager who's got his or her unique ability. And you're trying to find a way to maximize those abilities to hit the production bonuses that the industry geniuses are looking for you to hit, as well as satisfy your own personal goals and become the most famous artist of 1977.
Now, you said something about things like your gender may impact other things may be impacted by that. What do you mean by that?
Will be some places in the band where gender is referenced.
Okay.
Not as much as I wanted it to, but I like, for me, there's a lot that was unhappy about the 70s music scene. And as I get older, I want to focus on what was good and what was fun. I want to do that in particular when I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's like, even if you're playing a war game and the goal is to annihilate the enemy, you don't want to feel like you're annihilating real people,
right?
Because that's not fun. You want to feel like you're executing a strategy and that you're figuring out something in gameplay. But because rock and roll is a lot more fun than wartime, I wanted to immerse you in it and give you the experience of what it's like to be in a band that is on the verge of making it and how hard you have to work. So you will start with a day job, or it might be a night job or an after hours job, but you're going to start out being a vet tech or an executive assistant or a wait person or a hotel porter. And that's how you're going to make money to initially pay for your crew. and to pay your manager and until you start making money from your musical career.
What
Yep.
other challenges would you say you faced throughout the whole process of this that you want to touch on?
I mean, honestly, the biggest challenge for me was just learning to make a prototype
Hmm.
because I'd never learned Photoshop. When I was in high school and I wanted to take shop, they actually told me, "No, you're a girl, you can't take
Oh,
shop."
wow. Wow.
So I never really learned how to make stuff.
Hmm.
And the one thing that was really important for me in making this prototype, and I didn't, I mean, people can tell you, you know, your prototype can be anything. It can be little drawings, but when you're taking something to a convention and you're showing it to publishers, if it looks cool and it's making people look at it, that is definitely a plus.
Hmm.
And I knew I wanted to keep track of stats on an amplifier with working knobs.
Hmm.
Figuring
Yeah.
out how to make an amplifier that had knobs that would track your stats was cool because it's something I've never seen done.
Hmm.
And I tried everything. I mean, I tried, you know, bottle caps
Hmm.
did not stay on and they're not really the right color. And finally one night I was I was putting on some lip balm and it hit me like chapstick caps. These will work and it turns out you can order them cheaply. You can get them in any color. They're a little too high, but they worked. They don't stay glued for very long to anything, even
Hmm.
with glue that's supposed to work on polypropylene. But it proved that you could do it and you could make them inexpensively. And I honestly don't know how Devir managed to produce this game for the price they've produced it for,
Hmm.
because they made amps with the double thick cardboard that these very thick player mats will fit into, and then you have knobs that work, and yes, they go to
They
11.
go to 11. That's right. Okay. Well, I got to see a prototype, or like, not the finished version at Gamma, and it looks incredible. And it just got me that much more interested in playing it. And I cannot wait to play it. Um, but yeah, so what was it like working with them? How did the process work? Was it a lot of, because I always have this question about sometimes when there are co-designs or people that live nowhere close by whoever they're working with. Did you do a lot of just virtual meetings? Was there a lot of in-person revisions, the play testing process? Did they oversee any of that? Just if you can talk a little bit about what it's like to go through that with a designer or with a publisher like Devir.
It depends on the publisher. Some
Hmm.
publishers, you hand them your game, they take it, and then they develop it, and maybe they talk to you again and ask your opinion on things. Maybe they don't. Devere is completely hands off. They have some ideas. Really, the one thing that they wanted from me is they said, "We want you to make this shorter and more complex."
Okay.
And it's like shorter and more complex. Those
Yeah.
two things don't go together.
Hmm.
And I figured out a way to do that, which initially the game was 12 rounds and you started pretty much with nothing.
Hmm.
Um, and instead, it's like I cut 3 rounds off and started you out with a little more talent, a little bit of a reputation, a couple of original songs, and a manager.
Hmm.
And it took away one of my favorite decisions in the game, but sometimes you have to do that to make a better game.
Yeah.
And they basically said, "We don't care how you do it your way,
That's
but
great.
just go do this."
Yeah.
So I figured out how I wanted to do that. They went, "Great." And they had one idea that I still think was a really interesting idea that didn't make it into the game.
Hmm.
And that was because the numbers on the amps go to 11, from my little nod to Spinal Tap.
Hmm.
Um, they said maybe it shouldn't be so easy to go from 10 to 11. And I designed a mechanic in it where you had to have an overdrive token,
Okay.
which everybody in the 70s, all the guitarists had these overdrive pedals.
Hmm.
They were everywhere. And it made perfect thematic sense.
Yeah.
But for a game that wanted to then be shorter, to have that in there and have you have to be able to go get those in addition to everything else you need was too much. Although, if there's ever an expansion, I think you may see overdrive pedals.
Well, that makes me wonder. So it's Rock Hard 1977, and you kind of touch on this, but why that specific year?
Well, for one thing, it takes out some of the action choices that I would otherwise have to put in the game, like making a video, having a bigger advance to make the video. Later on, you'd have the whole streaming thing come in. If you set it now, you'd have social media, you'd have YouTube to deal with. And I feel like that leaves room for either an expansion or a standalone game set in that universe later on. But right now, I did not include merch. I didn't include getting a publishing deal and really making writing from your money from your songwriting. So there's still a lot more to explore, even without bringing in video, without bringing in social media, without bringing in YouTube. And I wanted a chance to just like say, let's start there.
Yeah.
It was complicated enough. There are still plenty more things to do in the music industry.
Sure.
And also there's a lot of nostalgia for the 70s right now.
Yeah.
And I think you're seeing a lot of bands channel that. I mean, let's talk for 2 seconds about Måneskin, who won Eurovision a few years ago, broke the rock curse and have opened for the Rolling Stones and broken over into the US market. And they just are completely channeling the 70s. Right now, it's this decade, at least the way people see it, it's pre-cancel culture. It's you could say what you think, you could do what you wanted, you could rock and roll all night and party every day. So it's a combination between I lived that life, so I know it, but it also lends itself really well to gameplay.
All right, Jackie. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today about your history, about Rock Hard 1977. It's been fascinating to pick your brain about your process there. Just thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And order my game on Game Nerdz. It's a great game and it's a great website.
Thank you again, Jackie. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to Game Nerdz YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next video.